What's up, folks? It's your buddy, old pal, Flying Health Coach, coming at you from good old Utah still. Just got, it's Friday, right? Mountain time, it's 3:33, so Central Time, 4:33, and then Pacific Time, it doesn't matter, 2:30 Pacific Time, I think, whatever. Um, why am I here today on a Friday afternoon? Again, I don't have a glass of wine, unfortunately, but I'm here to talk about flows and checklists, especially because, well, the importance of them, why we have them. So, why we have the importance of them, and bestowing good habits with flows and checklists in the aviation world, especially as you're just getting into it and doing your training, right? Where have I been? Right? Been in Utah, hanging out, going through training here for the airlines. It's loads of fun, but my God, it is a lot of work. We just got done doing our ground validation today, and test was good, but man, I tell you, it was a lot of work. Um, 8 to 5 every single day, and then studying for 2.5, 3 hours every night. It is a lot, but it's all worth it at the end. And this is not new information. People that have gone through training of some kind of sort, right? It's a lot, and we all know that. Um, but flows and checklists, right? So coming into the first week of ground school, right, you get introduced to flows and checklists, challenge and response checklists, right? In those challenge and response checklists, there's variable responses, right? You have these task items that are done prior to said checklist, right? And you just have these multitude of new things thrown at you that you're not used to, especially if obviously, if you're in the GA world, you're introduced to, let's just say, a Piper Warrior, right? Here's a Piper Warrior checklist, right? It's got what, one, two, three, four, maybe five like tiny little pages of items to look at that are not required to be memorized unless outside of the bold-faced items on the emergency side, right? Like your partial power loss or emergency descents, electrical fire, engine fire, things like that. So there's a couple memorization items on there, but for the most part, you only ever start to memorize those checklists after you do them over and over and over again. It becomes just part of you, right? But one thing I've really realized this past, week or 2 weeks is the importance of really, memorizing flows, yes, but the importance of checklist items, right? And how important it is when they say devil's in the details, right? And that is insanely true. We had watched a video of a crew a while back where they they looked at the release fuel on their dispatch release, and then but they didn't cross reference that with the fuel they actually had on board. They had landed a new airport, and for someone thought they got fueled up, and they never actually got fueled up, and they took off, and then you know they didn't crash, thankfully, but they finally recognized that they were at minimum fuel, and they were still quite a ways away from where they were going, so they had to divert. Obviously, I should say obviously, but they thankfully landed, right? But it's part of those checklist items that can easily go unnoticed, that can make or break your day, right? So going through training here and having to really get your flow items down and really make sure that not so much memorizing, you don't not memorizing a checklist, right? But you're following it to a T. So you do hit every single point, no matter how minute it may seem. Um, and again, that's just bestowing good habits, right? Even looking at something like external lights or passenger lights, right? Are those going to make or break a flight? No, right? But it's still the mindset, right? And that's what this video is mainly about, is the mindset going into checklists and flows and how important they are. So, why do we have checklists in the first place? Well, yes, checklists help us, obviously start the day, start the airplane, right? But what is it really a bigger point of it, right? Especially during like a pre-flight check. Well, you're making sure the plane is safe to fly. You're making sure that you can safely add power to it. You're making sure the plane is airworthy. It's legal to fly, right? So is the plane legal to fly? Is it safe to fly, right? And how do you apply power to it? How do you start the airplane? And what are the taxi, the takeoff, the en route operations, descent operations, after landing, right? You have all these checks that you got to do, and they're there for a reason, right? You know, I was about to say hundreds of years ago, but we didn't have planes hundreds of years ago. Let's say like 50. I don't remember the exact date, but years and years and years ago, they didn't have checklists, right? There wasn't always checklists around, right? But thankfully, we have them now, because they act as a guide for us when something does maybe go wrong. We can always reference back to it. Here we talk about things like the QRC or QRH, their quick reference cards or quick reference handbook. And there's certain memorization items that you have to know, emergency descents and, engine stuff or electrical stuff, right? There's certain things you just have to memorize as memorization items, right? But there's also, there's checklists and other references we can use to reference them, right? We need to know where to find them in case something does happen. But one thing that, I wanted to really bestow upon maybe younger aviators that are, going into aviation, just starting, is the importance of following a checklist to the T, right? And I noticed, towards the end of my GA, and I'll probably still going to go back and do GA stuff, but towards the end of my GA career, right, I became very lackadaisical with checklist, right? Because I felt like I had it memorized. I could go out to the airplane, I could look at everything, and I found there was times where I did miss things, right, because I didn't have my checklist with me. And same thing with flight, right? I got lazy with checklist during flight because I just done it so much. And more oftentimes than not, you just realize, oh yeah, I missed the landing light there, or I missed the fuel pump there, I missed the carb heat there, whatever have you. And nothing ever happened, right? But that also develops that dangerous mindset of invulnerability where, yeah, it's not going to happen to me. No big deal. Until it does, right? Um, it's a very slim chance that stuff does happen, but it does happen. And unfortunately, it only takes once, right? There's that old saying that goes, you only have to be right once. Well, on the contrary to that, you only have to be wrong once too, right? One mistake and it's done, right? That's it. It's all it takes. And that's your life. And I think it's just really easy to take that for granted, especially in aviation, right? When you do something long enough, you get really good at it and you become complacent. And I remember I promised myself I would never become complacent, and sure as heck I did. Um, so young aviators that are maybe do watch us eventually at some point, who knows when, um, pay attention to your checklist items, right? They are down to the littlest minute detail, right? Take your time with them because again, they're there for a reason. They're there to help you safely operate the aircraft, and they're there to help you safely, not safely, but diagnose potential issues, right? Okay, if you have an engine fire, you should have that memorized. What do I got to do? All right, well, I got to do this, this, and this. You start doing it, and you look at the checklist quick. Okay, I did those things, but shit, forgot that one. All right, do that. Those little things can make or break your life, right? They can. And we learned a lot about that over the past 2 weeks. So, again, we have the checklists as a guide, right? They're there to help us ensure that the aircraft is safe to fly, it's airworthy, right? And how do we operate the dang thing during phases of flight, right? Um, so that's something that again has just become very apparent to me, the importance of of operating philosophy, if you will, right? Always have your checklist with you, follow your checklist to a T. And if you forget something, reference your dang checklist, right? It's there for a reason. It's there to help you, right? It's not there to be a burden. So next time you go fly, right? Yes, it's tedious. And yes, if you're at, 1,000 hours in a Piper Warrior or whatever have you, or Archer or Seminole, whatever, right? Yes, you do have probably it memorized at this point, right? But again, it only takes that one time for you to forget one little thing, and that could be it, right? So again, pay attention to your checklists, right? Memorize the items you have to memorize, right? And have a flow pattern, have a rhyme or reason for what you're doing, right? Don't be random inside the cockpit, right? Even in the GE world, right now, going through training here for the airlines, right? Flow patterns are there for a reason. They're in a sequential order for a reason, for a safe reason, and to make sure you hit all the items you're supposed to hit, right? Again, for safe operation of the aircraft. You know, and same in Piper Warrior world. I know in the GA world where I did my training, I never once was shown a flow. It was, all right, your flow was right to left, then left to right. What's that mean? Right? But develop a rhyme or reason, and you don't have to have your instructor do this for you, right? But if you have a checklist, or if you have like emergency checklist and you have an engine fire, okay, well, let's just go right to left. Okay, mixture's off, throttle's off, fuel's off, right? Mags off, whatever. I forget the checklist now, right? But you have a rhyme or reason. You're not just going, oh shit, engine fire. I got to do the throttle's idle, then I got to go to the mixture over here, or excuse me, the fuel over there, the mixture over there, and then the fuel pump, and then have a reason, to make things more fluid, right? And it's going to make a big difference. And if you can't think of one, ask your instructor, ask someone to help you get a flow down for certain items. Have a set process every time you go fly, right? Do the same stuff every single time. You don't need to vary up, and you don't need to vary up items, right? So have your process right. When there's a kink in your process, like call it the error chain, right? Or you can look in the Swiss cheese model, right? A lot of models we can look at here. But if you have a process that works every time and it's safe and you're following checklists, well, if something gets put in the middle of that process, you can recognize it right away, right? You can have that risk mitigation, that those tools can start to click in your mind of, wait, this isn't right. This is what I'm normally used to. I need to make a different decision, right? Maybe the decision is to not go fly that day. Maybe it's to, oh, I forgot this one item on the checklist. Okay, well, ding, right? The little cue goes off in your head. But pay attention to your checklists, right? Pay attention to getting some kind of flow pattern, having some kind of rhyme or reason for what you're doing inside the airplane, right? Um, I wish I kept up with this the whole time. Thankfully, I'm still here, right? And this is not meant to be a morbid talk, nor is it meant to being like anything but just this is reality, right? I just watched a video that a while ago before I made this video about a young student who grew up in Minnesota who died in a plane crash, right? It's an awful thing. So things do happen and they don't know what happened yet, right? But if we can do stuff to prevent accidents or incidences, why not do it? i.e., follow procedures, right? They're there for a reason. Follow your SOPs. They're there for a reason. I can't tell you how many, and I didn't read it thoroughly either, but we had our SOPs at our organization way back when, and I read a little bit of it, but I didn't read a lot of it. I don't think I ever showed a single student the SOPs in my organization, and I wish I did. So take time and think about what your company's procedures are. When are you supposed to make call outs on, when you're supposed to make that first turn on takeoff? When are you supposed to make that call coming back in? When are you supposed to do your cruise check? When are you supposed to do these things, right? They might seem minute or they might seem little, but again, it's bestowing that mindset of, if you're a pilot and trying to be a pilot in aviation, is you have to be nitpicky with details. You have to follow procedures. You have to have flows, right? They're there for a reason. They're there to keep you safe, and they're there to help you recognize that, wait, that's not right. Okay, then again, those little things start rolling in your head about, I need to make a different decision. I need to break the error chain right now, right? And then veer off a different avenue. And those are great life metaphors too, right? That's why I love habits so much. If I maintain basic daily habits, I know how to control them. I'm in better control of my daily habits versus when something happens that's out of my control. Well, I can put a stop to it quickly, right? And obviously, we're in a very open chain, if you will, open chain environment, right, where we can't control everything, right? But point is, the dragging us on way too long now. Follow procedures are there for a reason, right? Make sure you have a rhyme or reason for what you're doing. It is going to help you immensely, especially if you want to go from the GA world to then training, going to the airlines, right? Those are requirements that you follow standard operating procedures. You might as well get the habits right away because they're going to carry over into your next career, right? That's what I got. Other than that, folks, happy Friday again from Utah. Hope you all are had a great week. As always, anyone needs to, chat, email should be in the introduction. I should really put a different email in there because I don't check the other one that often, so it doesn't really help. But yeah, got a good set of years. People just need to talk and talk about life stuff. As always, go check out JH_candles on Instagram. Working on putting some different, my fiance is at least, working on some videos, getting some new candles put up there, and they're good candles. I tell you, they're good candles. Put a little aviation spin on it too for the aviation folks out there, right? Get a little customized aviation candle. So anyway, have a wonderful Friday. Have a great weekend, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.